I'm Metamela with the Holographic Heartscape. Thank you for joining us today. I have with me here Starman. And I just recently met Starman last night, in fact. We are sitting here in a very special spot at the Cahokia Mounds, which is a worldwide treasure. And it's right across the river from the St. Louis Arch. We can see the St. Louis Arch right from here. And I wanted to share with you something very special which just occurred here last night. So it actually started this past Wednesday on the 23rd, which happened to be my birthday. And it was very special alignment for me, and I'm going to actually do a separate video that goes more into detail about that. But today I wanted to talk about how that ceremony actually interacts with Starman. And so I was here this past Wednesday, and I was meditating right in this spot. I literally connected through a portal with the 33rd dimension while integrating the density of the planet. So it was just one thing of many that were happening during this window, during this time on this planet, with many beings involved. And so today is the 28th and represents the end of this window, when a lot of people have been concerned about this time or not sure what to think about it. And so last night I had a gathering of friends up here to watch the eclipse of the blood moon, and a friend of mine had told me about Starman and the ceremony which he does in different places all over the planet. And so I was really curious about him, as I'm also a grid worker, and I wasn't even sure if he was actually going to make it because she wasn't sure. And then suddenly, lo and behold, as soon as I see this man, I'm like instantly like, no, this is someone I know. Like, there was just zero resistance. Like, I stood right up and we just started hugging practically, it felt like. And I just had such a strong resonance when I met you.
Yeah, it's a soul connection. Past life association included with it, and it just happens when you're in these vibrational spots where this kind of energy is, and the people that deal with this energy are.
Absolutely. And I was just so happy to take you in because I felt everything, before you even stated it to me, pretty much is how I felt. Like everything you were saying, So, and I started like even getting up like past life memories from you, in fact. So it was interesting. So I wanted to start with your name, actually, with why do people call you Starman?
Well, the name is a spirit name. They call it a spirit name in native tradition or indigenous people tradition.
Yes.
And I've been through a series of names that come out of Sweat Lodge and naming ceremonies. And this third one, or this fourth one that it is, came from the people. It didn't come out of ceremony specifically. And people just started calling me Starman.
Right.
And so I was like really resisting it. I couldn't really connect to it. Until I went to, I was on the mountain of Shasta, Mount Shasta.
Very high vibration space.
Yeah, and I was there with, by myself in a car that had a bad battery and winter conditions, and I'm going up the mountain because I wanted to get the sunset. And the car died on me, not too far into it.
Wow.
Not too far from the end place where I was going to be taking pictures. And so I had these visitors coming, which was off season and there wasn't supposed to be anybody on the mountain, and it was winter time, and they came rolling down the mountain in a Porsche and stopped right in front of me. Black colored Porsche, a woman and a man, and they hopped out of the car and They asked me if I needed help, and I said, yeah, I got to jump in the car. I just ran out of battery. And they asked me my name 3 times. It was a little bit disconcerting to me because I gave them my name, Paul Diker, which is my, Earth name. It's not a spirit name. And they kept looking at me funny 3 different times because they asked me 3 different times, and I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah, 3 times.
3 separate times.
Seems to be a number that comes up between me and you, too.
Yeah, 3 is an interesting number everywhere, all the time. If you haven't noticed. So the third time, the first 2 times they had sort of a disappointed look.
Right.
And the third time they just thought it was funny. And I couldn't interpret that till later. But I realized that I'd been resisting that name for so long, and the Andromedan people, they were Andromedans that dropped down from the ship for a little visit. And this happened to me before on Mount Shasta, and I didn't recognize it off the bat. But later on it came to me, and I was still resisting. So I had this meeting coming with the Blackfoot chief, Jimmy Sankadora, of the Blackfoot tribe in Montana. And my friend Rick, who was setting up this ceremony, this prophecy-fulfilling ceremony with the buffalo, the buffalo skull is a year-long ceremony once a month. And it was my first time there. And we're at the Chief's Mountain. And here comes Jimmy. Jimmy's coming up, and Rick says, "What's your name? You got to tell him your name."
Here we go again.
And he came up to me with the same vibrational tone and the same, like, get this right deal.
And it felt the same.
It felt the same as being on the mountain. And he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Starman." And they've been, like, calling me Starman in Whitefish and everywhere else since before, during, and now. Before I recognized it, I just kept hearing it. Probably from past life experiences or whatever. Just making that association that we made.
Right.
So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's how that name came about.
Right, and from what I understand, like, from other stories I've heard of indigenous people all over the world that have, carried the ancient traditions of bringing down ancient knowledge of what it means to be human and our experience here, and our history on this planet, that it's quite often in multiple cultures that they've received visitors from someone they call the Star People. So when, even to this day, when someone comes from this tradition, multiple cultures, yet again, will call them a star person. So I find that interesting that it's almost kind of like a nickname in a way.
Yeah, the indigenous people are much more connected to the star nations.
Yes.
Our star seeding reality here on
Absolutely.
the planet. And they have no question when they deal with this sacred bundle called the Star Gift that I'm the keeper of. And that's how they can make that such a strong and instant connection many, many times.
Right, and a lot of people don't realize, but there's actually many indigenous cultures, the elders of these groups make trips all over the planet to do similar kind of grid work that you do, and you have actually worked with some of these groups.
Yeah, there's a number of groups. I call them, just for lack of a better term, tribes. We're in these different little tribes. Like across the river there this weekend was the Midwest Crystal Festival. That's a certain tribe. And I've been to gatherings like in Wisconsin, the North American Shamanic Gathering. It's a tribe. People get together every year. And then my friends in Whitefish and my friends in California and all over the land. They represent tribes, and these tribes are moving toward one mind, one heart. And that comes out of my Sundance experience with the Lakota in Nebraska and South Dakota. So I got a Sundance history.
And you said that you've encountered even groups from different places of the world here on Cahokia when you've been here. Is that correct?
Yeah, here at Cahokia, It's like the eighth wonder of the world and the best kept secret. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's the biggest earthen structure on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I call the bridge of the mothership. And that's where I operate this technology,
Right.
the sacred bundle. And I've met people from all over the planet come here. Dozens of times I've been here in ceremony, and this is just another time and place that's coming right at the cusp of this super eclipse, full blood moon. It just doesn't happen very often. But here we are in this transition period in time where we're incorporating the equalization of the divine feminine into the culture of the planet.
Yes. Yes, and that's what things were about last night. We actually got to see the eclipse right as the eclipse was cusping. The cloud cover was still there. It was right over here. But right as it was starting to go into the wane, we cleared the clouds.
We noticed that you could see, like normally when you see city lights on the plane, you see a light. Well, we saw it way up in the sky where there wasn't a city, but the moon was there. And so it started showing through, and then eventually it poked through more and more and more until it was all cleared. Right about at the time of the waning.
So I think that both you and I could actually tell where the moon was through the cloud cover because of just our awareness and our pineal gland and whatever it be.
And I think that's a matter of trust. When we trust in the cosmos and the ability of things to develop the way they are supposed to be in a time and place, then that's exactly what happens.
Precisely.
And even sometimes if you don't trust, it happens anyway.
Yeah.
We had a few experiences like that too.
Yeah, and that's where you can just be like, oh man, thank you that I'm not the only person involved in this mission, because there's other people who have my back when I kind of falter.
Yeah, there's just so many elements out there at all times that are in back of us and supporting us whether we know it or not.
Absolutely. There's so many beings all the time, and it's like even when you are not tapping into it or you're feeling those emotions of isolationism, that no one cares, no one's there, the reality is that there are beings around you.
Right.
Waiting for you to open, to receive their love.
To ask.
To ask, exactly.
And then be there to receive.
Yeah. So, so I wanted to actually ask you about your life, like when you were younger, like how did you first know that you were different than the other human experiences? Like what showed you what you knew?
Well, that's really hard to explain because it didn't happen early. I lost basically all my memories to 7 years old. And when I had my vision, I was 7 years old. I knew what I'd be doing into the future. I knew it would be going through the Sundance. And so when that happened like 8-9 years ago, I knew, things were getting ready to pick up. But I thought everyone was like me, and that everyone could do what I do. But we're all individuals, and we all have our own personal blueprint and plan and reason for being here. So there isn't anybody else that can do what I do or you do specifically. But collectively, we can do it all.
That is so beautiful, and exactly how I feel as well. It's like people will come up to me or message me and say, wow, it must be I'm so envious of who you are or something. And I'm like, well, who you are is just as special. It's like every person has such a unique perspective.
Yeah, and when we get to the point of being, which is what we're working toward, one heart and one mind, then everyone will be on the same plane of thought and understanding and being.
And it'll we'll be able to tap into one another's experiences.
Like we tapped in when we met. Immediately. It's just a matter of being one.
Exactly.
Instantly.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that there's still not a usefulness for boundaries in the reality that we have here, but we're shifting gradually to a place where that will no longer be needed, or we'll have a different way of handling that. So
Yeah, we'll be evolving into different nature.
Exactly. So I wanted to get more into then what this work is about for you. Talking specifically about the equipment and what you do when you do these ceremonies and how it relates to this place. And
we talked about grid work earlier.
Yes.
We know we're dealing with grid works, and there's different ways of going about describing it, whether it be a vortex, a stargate, or portal. They're all, similar in nature in that they're connecting vibrational energy throughout the planet and the universe. So this particular sacred bundle is called the Star Gift 19, and it comes directly from the stars, literally. This is the central piece of it here. And the technology of it is that this is a receiver. And when I go into ceremony, I will place it up to the sun, or the moon last night, or the stars, or a constellation, intentionally. And that's what it's set on. Once it's set for 19 seconds in that direction, then the ceremony begins. And this is the earth connection and the receiver. But we're getting connection through the whole of the universe, through Fibonacci mathematical equation from the spot here. That's the technology.
And Fibonacci is, you've probably seen before, that's spiraled within a square that's based on the number sequence. So if you look up Fibonacci, that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, and you look at a shell, it goes in the Fibonacci cycle.
Right.
Cycle.
Everything grows in this pattern, pretty much. So, and did you have anything more to say about this piece then, or?
Well, there's a lot to say about it, but
Yeah.
I don't want to go into too much detail because we don't have that much time. But basically, it was an answer to a prayer. I was calling in for something that was going to challenge me or show me my mission, is the bottom line. And this thing came along and did that for me.
Yeah.
Without going into detail.
Sure. Because there's definitely a lot I get with this piece as well. Like, when I was experiencing it last night, I was getting a lot of multidimensionality. I was actually seeing interdimensionally when I looked at it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. I brought it to the Crow Dog Sundance, this cross, the first year I got it. And I went there with a friend of mine from the Omaha Reservation. It turns out it was a grandson of Crow Dog. So then that's the first time they ever met. There's a lot of stuff like that goes on reservation as far as disassociation of families and the distance and finding relatives later. At any rate, when I brought this thing and showed it to Crow Dog, he looked at it and he described it. I don't know if he even remembers this, but my friend was there, Frank Morrison, and he was witness to this too. Crow Dog said, "This is holy. It contains the secrets of the universe. Keep it. It is yours. Put your mind to it." So I was assigned as the keeper of this sacred piece, part of the whole bundle. And by Crow Dog, that's my understanding of it. And I had put my mind to it and not be able to figure it out. And so I knew from my perspective, it was a matter of putting everyone's mind to it, one mind and one heart. And so we're in
going
that process.
back into that trust, like you said.
So we're in that process right now. And just like meeting people like yourself, that you get that trust and that understanding immediately and a full connection. More and more of that amplified here, there, and everywhere.
And absolutely, because when I first saw the piece and I was feeling you, there was not a doubt in my mind. Like, honestly, it was pure trust. It was like, I didn't know, I understood that I didn't know all the aspects of what I was seeing, but that I trusted that what was needed would come to me. The understanding of its history would show itself to me,
So this piece and this technology does that for everyone.
Exactly.
Whether they know it or not. Some people get to know it like yourself, and others don't even really know what's happening until later. But they're getting connections and a download from the knowledge and secrets of the universe. They're being slowly revealed one by one.
Right, and I know
to each individual in their own time and space.
Yes, and I actually received a download myself while sitting around it last night, so I can speak firsthand
Yeah.
about that.
So part of what makes this happen is the next year I knew I had my work cut out for me with this. It taught me everything I needed to know about not knowing everything and be able to figure things out.
Right.
It did that for me pretty quickly. And then, so I had one prayer for the Sundance the next year. And I couldn't think of a better prayer and a simpler way to try to get out of it. And I wasn't really trying to get out of it. I just couldn't think of anything else. So I just said, thank you. That was my prayer at the Sundance. And it turns out that prayer can be answered with 2 words. You're welcome.
Absolutely.
And that's what the rest of this sacred bundle is all about, is the gift from the stars. They're literally from another quadrant of the universe. They're not Earth material here. And the reason I know that is because I've been collecting marbles for like 10 years, 12 years. And I took them to the marble show and they told me I can't bring them there anymore. They're not marbles. Then I took them to the Crystal Festival here. And Ryan and all the Crystal Festivals are saying, we don't know where these are from, but we're not going to be able to find any more. A few people ask, and you just have to tell them, well, I tried to get more, and I couldn't. This is all there is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a pretty special connection that we have to the universe.
Right. They're more than a rare artifact, to say the least.
Yeah, and they're part of the technology because they do the transmitting from the receiver, and then they receive and put back into the transmitter, and it goes out to the universe in the one mind, one heart connection. You can pick up any one of these and get a whole different set of programs and downloads.
And they actually change.
They do. We had an interesting thing happen last night. One of the crystals, they've only done this one time before in Sedona. It's the white crystal here, cosmic crystal orb. And it has a white background with crystalline structure at the base of it. And it turned all the way pink in Sedona, but then overnight back to white. And it's been white ever since, except for last night we had some pink.
Yes.
And the pink is staying this time. And that signifies the, literally, this is the information, that signifies the coming of age of the feminine energy.
Which I felt coming in very much last night.
Which was what that blood moon was all about.
Yes.
Really interesting one, because not only was it a blood moon, it was a full moon and an eclipse, full eclipse.
Yes.
And a supermoon.
Yeah,
You know, it had like 3 or 4 elements going on all in one set.
Yes, we've had a lot of blood moons this past year, but I feel like everything was really leading up to this event.
Mm-hmm. There was 4 this year, I think.
Yeah.
First time there's been 4 in 1 year, and who knows how long, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows how long, but
somebody does, but I don't know.
I'm looking here at these crystals, and I was looking at them last night, and let me tell you that they're absolutely beautiful. They are each unique, and they look like they have little pieces of crystalline type structures in them. But then when you look inside of it, the way it's, the only word I can describe it is interdimensional. The way that you're going to be able to perceive it is really up to you. And that's part of what this is about, right?
Yeah, they're very personal to each person. There's different sets of information and transmission and receiving that goes on for every person in the vicinity all the time. And it's a tremendous upgrade if you're paying attention and can resonate with the vibrations that you're getting instantly, that you experienced last night.
Yes, and I feel that it was very special that we united last night because of the ceremony that I did here on this past Wednesday, starting on the 23rd, which is now being consecrated and completed today. Last night was a very significant role in that.
Yeah, it was, and when we were over there in the area there, one group and another group, there's like 10 groups here, maybe 40 or 50 people, all the way here until after midnight. I was the last one to leave here, just a little after midnight. And we're talking for a while and, just connecting, and we were looking for a place to set the bundle, and I wasn't getting a take over in there, and so where to go now? And he said, well, off this way is where I started my ceremony. And
where I did my meditation.
He walked right past this particular spot. We're sitting about 10 feet away, and I said, it's over here. It's right here.
Right, I'd walked past it looking for the spot where I'd been, and he was already on the spot and getting these goosebumps, and I actually touched his arm and felt the goosebumps. He was literally getting goosebumps standing over the spot where I had been meditating. And no one had ever shown me where to go on this mound. No one ever, I have not actually worked with other grid workers technically before now, because if you look at my videos talking about how I awakened on my 33rd birthday, and my numerology is 33, incarnation of Metatron. This was all aligned for me in the work that I'm doing here in my human journey, just as your work is aligned for you in your journey. It's synchronicity after synchronicity. We meet each other. The things that are destined to occur. And I actually had a reading from my friend who shares the same birthday as me, named Trinity K. Kula, who's in one of my spiritual groups. And her name means 3. She did a reading that I had both 3 come up, and then something to do with the 7th dimension, which is literally
well, the 7th dimension is the highest vibrational dimension that you can resonate in physical form. The rest of them are ethereal and different levels of spiritual connectedness.
Yes.
It's still all one thing, but these come from a 7th dimension planet, and it's a crystal planet.
Which we're explaining is not technically even a planet. It's more like a gateway. Or
it's a planet, all right. And it's a planet that's way bigger than the planet Earth, and it's a water planet. It's a very rare planet in those senses or meanings. Any water planet is rare with this amount of water. But the planet in another galaxy from which this came from is like way bigger than this planet. And it's literally a crystal planet. It's how these things can come out of a crystal planet. And it is a quadrant in the universe that is representative of the love vibration, just the energy of love for this whole quadrant of the universe. And that's Earth's connection to that love vibration, where these came from.
And so what relationship between this planet and humanity here on Earth right now do you see taking place?
I think we're coming to terms with the star seeding of this planet and where our star nation relatives are coming from and what their significance are. And we're developing the story. And it's coming into clearer focus. We really are all one, and our DNA is coming from all the star-seeding planets that put the DNA energy into this planet, all from another part of the universe, mostly from the Milky Way, but other galaxies as well. And so how the DNA connections are put in place, the way I understand it, is they go through activation. The DNA is there. Some of it's ethereal.
Right.
And science can't explain it.
Right. It's but actually an interdimensional component to our DNA.
And it's an energy thing. And so I've had this particular energy DNA activated here on this planet. I'm here now with this information.
Yes. And I actually had an experience right around my 33rd birthday that did this for me. I was with a woman who makes 0-point energy modulators, and that
which they're now accepting in India, but nowhere else on the planet.
Yes.
The government said okay, and it's the only place they're saying okay on the whole planet right now. their energy.
Yes, yes. And this is very much like what Tesla discovered and tried to make accessible to the common public so that we could actually have free energy, but Edison did not want to see that happen. He literally electrified to death a tent full of elephants in front of a crowd of people to try to say how dangerous it was, to convince people that it was dangerous. So that is actually why we are still having these monopolies, charge us to run the planet because, and people like John Bedini are being attacked in their laboratories because they are trying to get the word out that this really is feasible, it really is doable on a grid level. And you yourself are an engineer.
Well, my background was engineering. That's what I did, for professional. I was professionally involved. I worked with engineers, and I got the opportunity to work on a lot of interesting and different projects because I get bored with one and want to move on to the next, and they move me around. So I didn't even go to school for it. I just started doing it, and that was my career. So I think like an engineer, and I'm always looking for backup and some sort of security as far as in design and stuff. And so that's why I don't take anything that I get from this personally.
Yes.
It's not easy for me to do. I mean, I run through my engineering matrix thinking, which even goes beyond engineering, the matrix thinking that I connect to. And so I have to look at different points of the matrix and hear the same thing more than once, repeatedly, to be able to really connect. Not the dots for me, because it's not necessarily my doubt. Just I want the doubt removed for the whole. And when I was developing that information for these crystals, the point of vortex of change happened in Ohio when I was doing going to my first Star Knowledge conference, which I learned about from Sundance and decided to go to. And there at that conference was this woman who's like a hybrid.
Yes,
and she was just coming out from the reservation and from her hiding spot and her development spot. And so she was obviously a lot of alien cultural reality and physical too. Physical reality.
And talk about more what that means. So she's not just at a soul level something.
No,
she's
physically.
A physical, genetic
because the
alteration.
internal organs are not normal.
Yes.
They're hybrid. But they're also from DNA, inactivated DNA, and stuff that runs through the DNA. And I just looked at her talk and I said, oh my gosh, this is the best kept secret of this conference. I've never seen anything like this. And I knew after the conference I'd have to go up and talk with her. And I only had this first 8 that I was carrying at the time. So I brought this box up to her, this set here, and I set it on the podium. I think my cricket there doesn't.
Yeah, he's joining in.
So I set him up there, and she went like this. She looked down in the box like that for about 4 or 5 seconds. And she, well, there's one thing for sure, they're not from this planet. That kind of was the point on the matrix where I didn't try to go in any more than now. The marble people kicked me out. The crystal people were saying that there's no more. They don't know where to go them. They've never seen them, even at the biggest shows on the planet. But that was the point of the matrix where I didn't have any more doubts.
It sounds like you have learned from experience to allow these pieces to tell their own story.
Well, there's no other way to go about it.
Yes. To stop trying to define them.
No, the people in the one mind defines them. I don't. And it does it in its own time. It moves people in and out of its ceremony. I've had all kinds of experience where people came in and they left early, or people disappeared completely before ceremony started. It just has a way of dealing with the whole vibrational energy in any time and place.
And I definitely felt that last night because there were some people who, as soon as I had announced everyone on top of the mound that we would be sharing these pieces and they're welcome to come see and check it out, and it was so obvious, the people that were so vibrationally ready to take it in would just come over, and you could see them, like, at first working through the layers of self-doubt and the ego, and then as they gained that little bit of assurance that they don't need to expect one thing or another, that whatever they receive is just for them, and it's fine if it's just a small thing or a big thing, whatever that is. And you could just see, like, people settle in and start actually receiving, and
on
it's a
deeper
beautiful
levels.
thing.
Yeah. And some people can take a lot of energy and input, and some people can't take much. Everybody gets something. There's no question about it.
Right.
Whether they know it or not. Some people get, like, awesomely individual and really superior downloads, I'd call them. I mean, just like they're perfectly ready, and boom, there it is. And I've had that experience with many of my friends in Whitefish, like Jimmy Sancador, when I, he's the one that came at me with that Andromedan accent. What's your name? Starman. I didn't know what I was going to call myself.
And I have a strong affiliation with the Andromedans as well, so it's interesting that we both do, because...
Yeah, and that's just another one of the star-seeding nations, Syrians, Arcturians, Pleiadians, and But, so that was pretty interesting.
And when I told you about the mantids, you didn't even blink an eye. You, like, felt exactly what I was talking about. Like, you knew what I was talking about, and you turned to me and you're like, yeah, you were one too, weren't you? So it's just interesting talking back and forth, because it's energy, so free.
The totem energy and all this stuff that you can associate with and know about it, and incorporate it into your soul journey.
Yes. And let's see. So there was some people that had come that weren't prepared for the energy. Did you want to share something about that? I mean, not last night, but you've had in past experiences.
Where people weren't prepared?
Right, they felt it and they were overwhelmed by it, right?
Yeah, there's people that can come into this energy field and just not be able to handle it. Because even though they're of a high spiritual vibrational energy,
right,
they're just not ready to deal with it.
Right.
They're not able to handle the intensity of it.
And I think that says something to show the actual vibrational power of what you're doing, is that someone who is very sensitive and high vibration person might actually have to approach it gradually, because they're so sensitive to it.
Or worry about it later, But there's other people like my associates and friends in Whitefish. It's a high vibrational center for big grid work, just massively huge there. I could feel it on the Amtrak going through that town. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, I'm getting goosebumps just riding through the town.
I felt that yesterday at the Crystal Fest, too.
And I'm going, now what's up with that? I mean, I obviously got to be here. And then this person came up on the train from Whitefish, and there was that connection. And he was on a mission to go to New York and deal with, some spiritual journeys that he needed to be on at the time. But he made such a strong connection that he's a wealthy person. Really, former 1%er. And got out of the field because of all the garbage in it. Didn't want to do it anymore. And he told me that I had to be there for the 12th ceremony at the Chief's Mountain for the fulfilling of the prophecy, and that there's some people he wanted me to meet. One of them was Jimmy, the Blackfoot chief. Another was Dancing Thunder, Susquehanna's chief, and this the East meets the West in this major prophecy fulfilled, indigenous prophecy. And so he called me one Sunday night, and he said, "Whoops, I made a mistake. You have to be here tomorrow." So that would be a real trick. He said, "I'll have a plane ticket for you in the morning."
Wow.
So there I was at the airport the next next morning, and in Whitefish the next day, and that's how I made that connection with these people who, at the start of this story, that is the end of it. They made connections instantly, never any doubt, just like your connection.
Yes, and when you said that, it just gave me more chills because, like,
just no question.
I know what you're talking about. It's like, you know, when you're first beginning your spiritual journey from the standpoint of awakening, it's like it might not be like that quite right away because you're learning how to follow your path of guidance and synchronicities and learning to recognize what resonance feels like. And so, you know, perhaps you were doing this for a little bit before you started having those kinds of things happen where the carpet just started laying out for you.
It's like moving into your mission. Mm-hmm. and doing the dream walk.
Yes.
Like a magic carpet ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the song.
Yeah. It really is. And there's really very little you can do about it when you just live in the moment and be with it. It just happens. Because I'd been to like many power centers, vibrational power centers, like the Hopi mesas.
Yes, the Hopi.
Twice on each one of them doing ceremony. Sedona 3 times doing ceremony on all the major grids and then some. And all the associations here at Kokia Mounds, dozens of ceremonies here, meeting people from all over the planet who are ready to ship me back to their place to deal with this.
Right, and that's how it starts to cultivate. And not everyone's mission will be the same as yours, but you don't necessarily have to travel in order to complete a mission. You know, part of my being here in St. Louis, when I came here, I didn't know exactly why, but St. Louis felt like home. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and I lived in Chicago for a long time before I came here, and Chicago just felt more and more wrong to me. Like, I had to convince myself to be there the entire time. And so when I came to visit St. Louis, there was something about it, even though there's such a high contrast with with the racial relations here, and for other reasons too, it still felt like home to me. And it wasn't until this past year that I realized that was because of Kokia.
It's a major energy center for the whole of the North American continent.
And it's on the ley lines.
It's on the ley lines, and the connection, I make the rainbow connections from here to all these other places I visit. Every time I'm at a new place, the rainbow connections are made. The first one was made from here to the arch right there in St. Louis.
Yes, the arch is indeed like a rainbow.
It's like a rainbow, so it was a
gateway.
And
yes.
Everything's coming out of that little deal.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, is there anything else that you would want the people, the viewers, you at home, that you would want to have them carry with them from watching this?
Well, we're all moving in this direction, whether we know it or not, and we're moving up into higher vibration. It's a fifth dimension vibration. Earth is quickly becoming a fifth dimensional planet.
Right. We're moving swiftly into fourth. We've already been, but
the fourth goes really quick because fifth comes very soon after, and a lot of us here are already on the fifth dimension. And people are skipping, in from the third to the fourth and maintaining their energy levels. But in the not too distant future, the lower vibrational energies just won't be able to exist here.
Right, because they will have no point of attraction or attachment.
No, because we're all moving toward this one mind and one heart, and if they can't move into that love vibration and that,
then they'll have to go somewhere
in the
else.
vicinity of one mind or one heart, then their soul journey will take a different path.
Right, and I'm seeing more and more evidence that the 1%ers, the New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you want to call that, is actually getting weaker.
And some of them are integrated.
Yeah, and some of them are integrating. Absolutely, I think that most of the beings want to integrate. They just don't know how because they don't understand love. They literally don't understand love, so they feel trapped in where they're at.
Yeah.
So that's important to understand when we're working with beings. is to have that level of compassion.
But we're definitely seeing the potential of some of that energy being able to shift and move over. Just like how fast was your shift and moving over?
A year and a half.
Yeah, lightning speed.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. The shift can happen to, not just, Illuminati members. I mean, they can finally just get fed up with it. So now I got to go a different direction now. I just can't do this now.
Right. And I think that they've been at that point in juncture for a while. It's just that I've met beings that I've literally had beings come knocking on the door, tell me that they were raised by the Illuminati, seen horrible, horrible things in their lifetime. And that I could not even break through to them because they could not see love. They could not receive it.
So we have to keep transmitting it until they can.
Yes.
And that's the one heart, one mind.
Helping them recognize what does this vibration mean, helping them create clarity from mixed vibrations.
So that's the bottom line story. One heart, one mind. Let's just all head toward it and be there with it.
I think that's a great place to conclude. Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so glad that we've got to meet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This has been really, really cool. And from a first-hand perspective, I want to tell you what a sweet and gentle heart this man is. Like, everything about him is so, like, worthy and humble simultaneously.
Yeah, it's a walking dream.
Thank you for joining us today. We love you all so very much. Namaste.